Welcome to the Zinnov Podcast. You're listening to our Business Resilience series, where we bring to you conversations between eminent industry stalwarts and thought leaders from across the globe as they discuss their insights on overcoming challenges and the mindset that help them navigate the journey of crisis, resilience, and growth.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Zinnov Podcast, Business Resilience series. I'm your host, Pari Natarajan, CEO of Zinnov. Today I have with me Tyler Derr, Chief Technology Officer of Broadridge, and Sheenam Ohrie, Managing Director of Broadridge India. Tyler oversees global technology teams, including enterprise-wide software engineering, tech operations, and cybersecurity at Broadridge. And Sheenam leads India strategy and operation. She's responsible for driving innovation at Broadridge India and mobilizing the global network of talented, client-focused, and forward-thinking associates. Welcome, Sheenam and Tyler. We are thrilled to have you both here.
We're absolutely thrilled to be here too, Pari.
I agree.
Let's get to the deep end. Tyler, what are some of the key trends shaping the future of Fintech industry, and how is Broadridge positioning itself to capitalize on some of these trends?
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here. One of the things that we're seeing, if I talk about the clients that we service, is they're really looking for a more open and modern architecture that they can integrate with. And so our customers are really viewing us as an asset that they can run as a platform inside their organization. So having an openness to our data, being API and service and microservice based is really helping our architecture approach of integration with clients. We're also seeing that they want to de-risk programs and have more of a modular approach to building out capabilities with an organization like ours over time, and that they're able to grow with us in terms of their experience and leverage really the ability of capabilities we've got across the suite.
And can you give us an overview of Broadridge's own financial stack and the key technologies you leverage to drive innovation across some of your solutions based on your customer needs?
The interesting thing about Broadridge is we've been a collection of M&A activities that have taken place over a decade. And so we've got a diverse set of offerings we have in market, both a robust set of IP capabilities, kind of intellectual property, that allows our customers to run operational activities at very high speed, low cost, and really utility-like servicing to the industry. The collection of capabilities that we have is a spectrum of things that you would call traditional mainframes, and I'm really viewing as a different type of asset. I had the pleasure of being at IBM's Think conference last week, and it was one of the keynote speakers talking about how to unlock capabilities off the mainframe, and really viewing that asset as a way you can modernize your capabilities using code and Watson Code Assistant, doing code explains that really give you a chance to take COBOL and break it down into English. It's really changing the way we may modernize and transform those assets. Through to we have very capable distributed capabilities that we've built over time. And really, it's less about what we do today and it's more about the future. It's really progress getting to a modular container-based environment to roll out capabilities to clients and do it in both a private and a public cloud way. That's what we really see our technology on a distributed side being in the future. And we're really hearing from customers that's the kind of direction they want us to take as a platform.
And Sheenam, just diving into you, and Tyler gave a great overview of the overall fintech trends and how Broadridge is positioning yourself to serve some of your client needs. Broadridge India has always been on the forefront of driving innovation.
True.
And tell us a little bit about how are you leveraging, the latest Gen AI technologies into fintech solutions. Maybe highlight some innovative applications of Gen AI which you're implementing, maybe or exploring in your domain.
So very specific to Gen AI, Pari, across the globe in Broadridge, we did a roadshow to figure out what could be the business use cases that we could kind of leverage and make possible. A similar roadshow happened in India, and out of the 27 use cases that today we are running across Broadridge, about 5 of those ideas came from Broadridge. We have a full-fledged squad that does Gen AI development sitting in India and is responsible for some of the products that we're putting out in the market. At the onset, I think we should talk about BroadGPT, which is really our intranet version of ChatGPT. It uses the OpenAI protocols and has now the capability of integrating LLMs into the functionality, allowing us to explore the power of ChatGPT. We really leverage that to have better productivity in the developer environment. The second thing that I want to talk about is our first foray into Gen AI, which is Bond GPT, which was not done in India, but something that we are very, very proud of. What was done in India was the second commercially available product, which is called Ops GPT, which actually gives a workstation for our operational users to track everything that they're doing, including breaks, including seeing what could possibly fail tomorrow, and ensuring that we create more productivity around our operations piece. Coming at a very critical time because of the fact that the entire US domestic market is moving from a settlement cycle of T+2 to T+1. And that really requires a lot of efficiencies and productivity that we build into the system, removing the manual part of operations, right? So Ops GPT is our next one. The third one that we now have in the market is called Distribution GPT. And we've got more such things coming out. So you will keep hearing from Broadridge every 2-3 months, a use case which is out in the market around Gen AI that has been validated by our customers that yes, this is something that's really useful and it's something that they are willing to invest in.
And probably the only other thing that I say on that is the other exciting element is the way we're organizing. We call it the ways of working. We're also building full stack squads where product is even in our India facility. So it's not just the engineering know-how, we're building product and engineering know-how as full stack squads as a part of this, which is really part of our evolution.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to have, the entire engineering organization having full-fledged squads, which means product owners, scrum master, devs, estates, everything sitting co-located in India.
Interesting. So it's the pace of innovation could be a lot higher. And jumping into the Gen AI innovation, it's super exciting, right? So how you went about collecting some of these use cases, as well as be able to get to market very quickly. We've been hearing from our customers about changing the paradigm of how software is built. Like in the software, traditional model is you define an UI, you write specific code, and you maintain the code. And finally, the cost of development might be expensive, but cost of management could be lower. Versus in Gen AI, you're almost setting the goal for the software, and the software takes continue to tweak. The models are always changing. So the whole development process seems to be changing as well. Is there a change in terms of how you're setting up your teams, especially global teams?
Well, I think the global teams, the thing I'd start at the beginning of that, because it's really an integrated way that you're engineering and manufacturing new product. I would say few of the areas that I would highlight around our ways of working is really the prioritization process up front. There's lots of great ideas right now with AI.
Yeah.
But there's not a lack of ideas. I think what we've done a nice job is trying to cultivate very quickly, how can we identify good business cases with great business outcomes and have a really robust prioritization process up front so that you can target your efforts and your activities and your talent at the key initiatives you think are going to move the needle. That's one of the areas we focused early on. The second was really having an approach that was risk adjusted. Many firms have either indicated they're jumping all in with the AI or they're very cautious around it. And we've made the move that we want to be an active participant in this migration. We believe that it's important for our strategy. We believe it's important for the marketplace that we serve. But I think that determination by many firms is not an easy one. Like, how do you want to participate? And we really want to be active participants. But I think that's also somewhat of a cultural change with customers of taking a risk-based approach about how you want to leverage AI in your organization, both in your products. And the last is really, it's galvanized the way that we have even thought historically about cyber protection and prevention and what I call trust around client data, but it's really accelerated the way that we think and view client data and how we want to ensure we're protecting that as an organization and how that needs to be in the manufacturing process up front as you're designing products and as you're bringing them to market.
And Pari, if I may add, right, just from a developer productivity perspective and the ways of working that Tyler referred to earlier, we have now created a horizontal, which will kind of curate best practices for QA and have really AI-based tooling. So one of the things that we did an experiment here locally in India was to figure out if we kind of give the requirements into our broad GPT, is it capable of writing test cases for us? And we figured out that that was possible. So that's something that we're going now, build whole scale. The other piece that we want to do is try and see if we can also create some amount of automation using these kind of technologies and therefore reduce the cycle of building the IP around QA and testing. That's going to be our next foray into this technology.
Great. And one of the things you mentioned is your ability to use OpenAI and other solutions. I'm just extending that question. For Taylor, can you talk about broader approach around partnership and collaboration, with other players in the fintech ecosystem?
Look, we run a pretty diverse network of capabilities and our offerings into market. There are always firms that we're looking to partner with. The spectrum kind of runs the gamut. The example that I just used of being at IBM Think, we run a mainframe environment that people would classify as maybe a legacy asset. And I think that that's really a traditional mindset with the advent of AI and it really opening up and unlocking capabilities on that mainframe component, whether it's code explain and getting, I would say, languages like COBOL, et cetera, into a newer language like Java. That's an interesting and exciting topic, but what we found just as interesting is leveraging that for modernization techniques. And so one of the personas and use cases that we presented is how can we work to understand what the actual code is doing today in COBOL? And how can we think about using that to help our servicing organization in the event that we have an incident that's happening, that's a production incident? Can we leverage that so a first line associate can actually do a code explain to understand in English what the code's doing, get it to tier 3 and more quickly remediate issues for clients, so the mean time to resolve. And so partnerships like that with IBM allow us to continue to innovate regardless of the asset that we're running, and that it allows us to continue to refresh and get better.
And if I may add to that, Pari, in India, locally, we have tied up, sponsored some startups with the partnership with T-Hub, with a partnership with ISV. And right now, as we speak, and this was partnership to assess startups on Gen AI capabilities, also on blockchain and on the entire DeFi space, right? So we are now mentoring 3 startups in our partnership through T-Hub and about 8 startups in our mentorship and partnership with ISV. We're kind of extending out to see if there are solutions that we can either embed into our systems or we can partner and collaborate and see what we can do. But really reaching out into the ecosystem to see what else is available for us to, check on.
It's very interesting. One side you are partnering with a 100-year-old technology company which continues to reinvent themselves and leveraging some of their new innovations. On the other side, you're working with really cutting-edge young startups which are building some interesting solutions. And what's your innovation fabric looks like and kind of investments to enable this kind of working not just with the ecosystem but also internally?
I think from a sheer culture perspective, one of the key things that we want to focus on, and we continue to focus on, is to be curious. We want to go out and figure out what's available in the marketplace, what is it that we could do internally, and therefore help our customers. So we recently, for example, ran a hackathon where we invited the entire technology organization to develop using GenAI. We gave them sandboxes and just leverage tools that are available today with us and create use cases that were being sponsored by the business. So bringing in a customer angle and ensuring that you bring in the business ask, you marry that with the new technology that is available, you kind of create a lot of hunger. Then when you start to go out and expose people to startups, you do university hackathons, you're kind of creating really an ecosystem uh, that displays and is hungry for change and transformation. That's the kind of fabric that we are hoping to build and sustain going forward.
And probably the only other thing I'd add to it is our historical roots with our founder were really entrepreneurial based. And the regulatory business that is the core offering that really began Broadridge started from an entrepreneur having an idea. From there, our growth trajectory over the last decade has been acquiring entrepreneurs and bringing them into our family called Broadridge, and then being successful with our clients, really leveraging those solutions. So our history and our heritage has really been about entrepreneurship and embracing entrepreneurs. We're also very proud that many times when we acquire firms, entrepreneurs stay with us to run the business lines. And it's something we really view and value because it challenges us, with new techniques and new ideas, even our existing management principles. So I think we've had a long entrepreneurial set of roots that really have fostered this also.
Yeah, I look forward to you having a few more such acquisitions in India in the future. And we talked about your customers coming from a regulatory perspective, and your customers also face a lot of disruption from cutting edge startups. The large tech companies are also some level competing with some of your customers, and the customers almost expect you to be on top of it to drive this innovation, right? How do you foster this culture of innovation and continuous learning with your technology teams, which builds really a next generation of leaders who continue to foster that? How do you continue to retain that culture within the company?
That's a very great question because that's difficult to do the larger the organization becomes. I think in any traditional sense, it becomes more challenging the larger you become. I'll give you a couple of examples and things that we're doing right now that really, I think, are constantly re-underwriting and ensuring that we're fostering that type of innovation and the type of culture that we want to. We're focusing on building out these full stack squads, which include both product and they include engineering. And that we're doing what we really call two in a box to drive innovation that's aligned with business value and business outcomes. And then we're also leading with agile first techniques with engineering. And the ways of working that I mentioned really bring that together, but we're constantly evaluating areas like that. That's a big drive of us over the next 3 years to really have more product and engineering full stack squads that are in our geographic locations. And the examples that I mentioned earlier that Sheenam's been driving here to have full stack squads, that's a great representation of how you continue to challenge yourself about what the art of the possible is, and then seeing great success with it, because you may have things that don't work or fail. And you need to be ambitious to try things and then pivot, much like you do in an agile model, and then try something new. And I think that that is something as a leadership team we want to continue to express to our leaders, that they're open to fail and that they have a chance to succeed and try, and that the change is really in this curiosity is something that is important to our continued growth.
One of the advantages, Pari, that we've got is we have the platform, right? And we have customers that hook into that platform. We have a lot of operations teams that actually work for our customers and deliver for them, running their operations, right, on our platform, which essentially means there's a lot of knowledge that comes into the system as to how our customers are utilizing what we are giving them. A lot of knowledge about what the customers may want also going forward. So there's a lot of information that goes back into the product organization as to how are the variety of customers that we've got on our platform are really leveraging our functionality and doing different things with us, so to say. And that flow back also is one of the inputs into the innovation cycle.
Great. And one of the interesting things I read about Broadridge, you have a reverse mentoring program where senior leaders learn from younger generation. Can you tell a little bit about how it works and what's been the benefits on both sides?
I can start on that. We launched a reverse mentoring program in India about a year back. And basically, the intent of that program is that you have got 3 to 5 junior people mentoring one senior person. Like I had 3 mentors in that program. And then they decide the agenda for the mentoring sessions. And they come prepared with, what are the changes they would want, A, in the way we work, B, in the culture, or just sharing their expectations, in ways that are different, different from the ways we possibly grew up working, right? What I saw through that angle was the value system, Pari, is the same, right? They also want the same things. They also believe in the same kind of fulfillments, but the way they want to achieve that, the approach that they take, and the openness that they have, the different kind of curiosity that they bring to the table is very, very different. So it kind of gives you an insight on how they are thinking, because that's going to be the next generation. And it also tells you how you can possibly, make some changes and tweaks to your policies, in the flexibility that you provide around certain things to the larger organization, to A, to retain these people, and B, to help them excel, right? So they want to share, they also want to learn. And I think the entire thing around reverse mentoring works beautifully when the leader is ready to listen and ready to absorb. Tyler, you want to add something?
Yeah, the only other thing that I've seen in the industry that I think is a topic that's somewhat aligned to this is almost like servant leadership. Establishing a leadership organization that's listening to the organization, especially the next generation of the organization. These are people that are going to be leaders into the future. And how do they see and help us craft the vision of this department from really the ground level? Because it's important. You've got to have both a top-down vision and also a bottoms-up representation of what's working, but also challenging about how things could work in the future. And I think it's a healthy dialogue that leads to much better outcomes for companies.
One of the other things that I have used very powerfully, I believe, is I ask a lot of questions, which kind of forces them, if I may use that word, to think a little bit differently. And then they'll come back the next time and say, you asked this question, we couldn't answer it, but here is what we think. And then you can get into a dialogue, which also enables you to A, influence your culture, B, create that kind of thought process where they're starting to think out of the box.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. It's a great way of like what Tyler mentioned about top down and bottom up, bringing that together. The leadership playing a big role of bringing that aspect together. It was great having this conversation. Good to learn about some of the trends in the fintech industry and how you are creating a modular structure and also organizing yourself in a more agile pod way to deliver that. It was great to hear about your way of partnering, not just with some of the new GenAI partners like OpenAI, but also partnering with IBM and startups, and be able to continue to build on the entrepreneurship culture of the company. It's great to see leaders like you being very deliberate about building and nurturing that culture, which is driving that kind of innovation, which I'm pretty sure Broadridge customers expect from you. Thank you so much for sharing these insights with us, Sheenam and Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Zinnov Podcast. We will continue to bring you thought-provoking conversation with distinguished industry leaders in our upcoming episodes. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions on topics that matter most to you. Until next time, this is Pari Natarajan signing off. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Business Resilience Series. Stay tuned for more such interesting episodes. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. To know more about Zinnov, visit our website, www.zinnov.com, or drop us a note at info@zinnov.com. Follow us on Twitter @Zinnov for regular updates on our content. Thank you again for listening to the Business Resilience Series of the Zinnov Podcast.